Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Alright, so let's hop right into it. We're going to talk about the old school Marvel Star Wars comics. Yes, we're going back there. And this time we're just going to do one issue, issue number 38. It's called Riders in the Void. Now this is written by Archie Goodwin and Michael Golden. And in this one, Luke and Leia's Star Destroyer gets attacked, so they have to shoot out into hyperspace. And while they're there, they get lost in space. And no, they don't crash. They actually run into a ship, a living ship. What? Where they have to fight their way out. Now, back in the day when this came out, I never read it. Of course, I read these Marvel comic books way later. And of course, when this got rediscovered later on, people started attributing, saying, wait, could they make a connection between this and the Vong, living spaceship? But what I think they forget is, how did it become a living spaceship? Well, there's this odd story that only 80s Marvel could do, where he and the ship kind of melded, I say he, one of the surviving crew of this ship melded in with the machine, and it becomes a living ship. Okay, so of course all fingers point to the Vong and how this could have been a great connection. I know there was a lot of buzz on the forums back then. Nothing was ever said. Leland, she never addressed it, even though everyone wanted him to. And for a while I was up for it as well. But looking back over it, I think it would make more sense if this was something to do with the Sourcebook technology. Maybe this was a hybrid. Now, we haven't gotten to Sourcebook yet, but in that one, as some of you know, they put someone's essence into a machine. Now, this is kind of what we see that's happened in the Marvel comic book. Now, did they get the idea from the Marvel comic book, or did they just come up with it on their own? Kathy Tyers just came up with it on her own. I'm not sure. It'd be kind of weird that she would just look at Star Wars number 38, which was a popular comic book back in the day, or so Wikipedia told me. But I think that this was either a coincidence or not. This is a really neat way to say, hey, there could have been a connection here. Now, whether you want to go with the Vong, yeah, I can kind of see that, but it didn't happen outside of Vong space. I don't know. I don't see the Vong anymore. I think I did at first, but now I don't see it. But with the Sourcebook technology, I think it does make sense that, man and machine meld. Now, does that mean the Sourcebook were involved in some way? No, we're never told that either. I think it's just a form of involvement. Or whatever. Maybe the ship was living before that. It had sentience, but anyway, kind of an odd story. And originally, it was meant to be a filler in between Empire. They actually said that Marvel Star Wars 38 was going to be the first Empire Strikes Back comic. But due to delays, they had to do the Empire Strikes Back in issue 39. So 38 just had to be a last-minute filler episode where Archie Goodwin and Michael Golden, who was I think he was the artist as well, kind of came together with a quick story that they thought would be neat just to fill in between to wait for Empire to come out. But nothing was officially retconned, so they say. So right now it's just an issue. Now, the next issue I want to talk about is from Star Wars Tales. Yes, we're going back to Star Wars Tales. And we're going to go Star Wars Tales 18. And this one is called Payback by Andy Diggle. Basically, there is a crime lord who hires Boba Fett to go on a job to go kill someone. And it's kind of the job isn't what it seems to be. I don't want to spoil anything. It is a very short story. I hate to say generic Boba Fett, but how many times have we heard of a Boba Fett, story where the bounty, there's a twist to it, because you got to add a twist to it. It's okay though. It's fine for Star Wars Tales, and this was one of the better short stories from that comic book series that I did not like at all. And finally, the last short story, I say story, that I wanted to put in there is from the Star Wars Sourcebook by West End Games. Now, I don't know who wrote it, because it's kind of hard to determine what author wrote which little short story. But as I've said before, the Sourcebook and a lot of the West End Games material had these little blurbs of these just one-page or half-page stories of some event that ties into whatever they're describing in the Sourcebook or in the material, which was one of the unique things that was so great about West End Games. Not only did they provide you with excellent resource material, but they gave you a little story just in case you wanted to read something too. It was unnecessary, but I was so thankful for it. And someone has asked me to do reviews of all the West End game novels, or source books, I should say, piece by piece. Maybe one day I will. Right now I'm not. I will be plucking and cherry picking certain stories. And this one's called Ackbar's Rescue. And basically, it's just talking about how Ackbar got rescued. It's literally just a couple of paragraphs long. But I remember reading this, and this is the reason I picked this one out. I could pick out a ton. There is a ton of other little short stories that happened during the Rebellion era that I'm just not going to address. But ones that are a little bit significant was this one, because this is dealing with a major movie character, and this was a major reveal to how he, came about. And of course, back then, when West End Games was handling the series, people thought Star Wars was, it was dying. It was kind of the dark ages for Star Wars, and no one really cared. So them making a significant background improvement into a character from the movies was actually momentous. And for me, when I was reading over the source book for the first time, I was like, oh, well, that's interesting to know. And and like I said, does it need to be a story? Not really. I don't think Ackbar's Rescue needs to be some big, heist where we unlock and get Ackbar out, or we rescue him. In fact, Ackbar on his own may not have been an interesting story. His whole life until he escaped and got on the rebellion may not have made such a thrilling story when you think about it. But for what it was, leave it to West End Games to give us these little kernels that, whether, a lot of them were enjoyable, a lot of them informative, but this one was a little mix of both, and it just caught my interest, and I wanted to mention it there. Now, do you have to read it? No, and I really can't talk about anything about it because it's literally just a couple of paragraphs. I reread it just the other day, and I think it took me like a minute, maybe 30 seconds. So it's not much, but it is interesting and worth mentioning here. All right, folks, that's all the time I have for now. See you next time with another video.